Okay. Finally, Ravana lost all patience. In a fit of rage, he revealed his gigantic form as a fierce Rakshasa with 10 heads, 20 arms, and sharp teeth. The king of Rakshasas then declared, "If you wish to have a husband who is renowned throughout the three worlds, then accept me. Serve me, and I shall never displease you. Why are you so fond of Rama, who has been banished to the forest?" Ravana then grabbed Sita by the hair with his left hand. As if summoned, Ravana's golden chariot came close by, and placing his right hand upon her thigh, the king of the Rakshasas took the frightened Sita in his arms and ascended into the sky. As they ascended, Sita screamed out, "Rama, Rama, come and save me! Punish this wretched Ravana!" In desperation, Sita called out to the trees, the river, birds, and animals, begging them to inform Rama that she had been abducted. Just then, Sita saw Jatayu sleeping while perched atop a tree. Sita called out to him, "Jatayu, please help me. Please go now and tell Rama that I have been kidnapped by the evil Ravana." Hearing Sita's cries, Jatayu awakened, and seeing how she was being roughly handled by Ravana, he challenged the king of the Rakshasas, saying, "O Ravana, I am Jatayu, the king of the vultures. How can you dare lay your hands on the wife of another? Beware, for you are carrying a poisonous snake in your arms. I am now 60,000 years old and without weapons, and you are young with many weapons, but I will not allow you to carry away Sita. I warn you, give up your evil intentions, or else prepare to be thrown from your chariot like a ripe fruit falling from a tree." Thus challenged, Ravana angrily rushed toward Jatayu. As the fighting began, it appeared that two great mountains were striking one another. Ravana threw many weapons at Jatayu, while the giant vulture gouged Ravana with his taloned feet. Although many powerful arrows pierced Jatayu, the sight of Sita crying upon Ravana's chariot enabled him to tolerate the pain. Jatayu warded off the onslaught of arrows with his wings and managed to break Ravana's bow with his feet. Gaining this advantage, Jatayu quickly cut off Ravana's armor, and with his sharp claws he killed the mules yoked to the chariot. He smashed the chariot to pieces while simultaneously decapitating Ravana's driver with his beak. His chariot broken, Ravana fell to the ground while tightly clasping Sita in his arms. As they witnessed this wonderful display of prowess, all the creatures watching applauded Jatayu's valor. However, Jatayu was old and soon became exhausted. Ravana rose up into the sky, holding Sita with one hand and bearing a sword in another. Condemning Ravana, Jatayu suddenly swooped down upon his back and began pulling at his hair so hard that the Rakshas king's lips quivered with indignation. Pressed Pressing Sita tightly to his left thigh, Ravana struck back at Jatayu with the palm of his hand. Jatayu, however, dodged the blow and then tore off Ravana's 10 left arms with his powerful beak. Ravana's arms, however, were immediately replaced by new arms. Leaving Sita aside, the king of the Rakshasas began beating Jatayu with his fists and feet. The fighting continued for nearly an hour. Finally, in desperation, Ravana took up his sword and cut off Jatayu's wings, feet, and flanks. causing him to fall mortally wounded to the ground. Greatly distressed, Sita rushed to where Jatayu lay, embracing him with tears in her eyes. Ravana, however, quickly grabbed Sita by the hair and carried her off as she cried out in grief, Rama, Rama. Sita's cries caused the entire universe to fall out of order. Everything became enveloped in darkness. In empathy with Sita's grief, the wind no longer blew and the sun lost its luster. Lord Brahma, however, who could perceive the entire incident through divine eyes, declared, our purpose is now accomplished. Thereafter, as Ravana rose into the sky, Sita's ornaments broke apart, her jewels falling to the ground. The pearls from her necklace slipped from her breast like the pure water of the Ganga falling from the sky. Overwhelmed with fear and grief, Sita continuously struggled to free herself from Ravana's grip, reproaching him again and again from his vile, cowardly act. As Ravana sped towards Lanka, all creatures appeared to lament. There is no dharma, there is no truth, there is no gentleness. Her loose hair waving in the wind, her mark of tilaka erased, and her face devoid of cheer, Sita moaned, O Rama, O Lakshmana. Just then Sita saw five monkey chiefs sitting atop a mountain. Unnoticed by Ravana, she took off her silk upper cloth and some jewels and dropped them in the midst of the forest dwellers, hoping they would inform Rama. As the monkey stared with unblinking eyes, Ravana carried Sita away toward Lanka. Like many other powerful materialists, Ravana risked everything to gain the object of his desire. While carrying Sita across the ocean to his kingdom, he relished the thought of having successfully abducted her, and he eagerly anticipated making her his queen. Blinded by lust, he failed to realize that the object of his desire was actually death personified for him. The goddess of fortune always serves the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, and when materialists try to enjoy her, she manifests to them as Durga, the deadly material nature. As the mistress of this world, Durga rides a tiger and carries a trident, whose prongs are the threefold miseries of material life: miseries arising from the body and mind, miseries inflicted by other living entities, and miseries imposed by higher powers in the form of natural disasters. Indeed, no one, not even the greatest scientist or conqueror, can counteract the sufferings meted out by Durga. Thinking himself more powerful than God, Ravana dangerously ignored reality. After crossing the ocean, Ravana took Sita into the inner apartments of his palace. There he ordered his fierce Rakshasi attendants, watch over Sita most carefully and let no one see her face without my permission. Let her have gold, jewels, the best clothing, ornaments, and food, whatever she may desire. However, take heed of my warning. Anyone who dares to utter one harsh word toward her will die by my hands. After this, Ravana called for 8 powerful Rakshasas, saying, ever since Rama killed all the Rakshasas at Janasthana, I have felt an intolerable enmity toward him. Indeed, I will not sleep peacefully until Rama is killed. Go now to Janasthana, and after spying on him, bring back any information that you may gather. Then again Ravana went to see Sita, being overwhelmed with desire. Upon entering her quarters, he found her in a distressed state, surrounded by numerous Rakshasas. Bathed, bathed in her own tears, Sita appeared like a wind buffeted boat at sea, or a doe strayed from its herd and surrounded by dogs. Although she was unwilling, Ravana forced Sita to accompany him on a tour of his palace. The opulent palace resembled that of the demigods, with thousands of servants waiting to carry out Ravana's desires. Many rooms had cages with exotic birds, and the palace walls were covered with intricate designs of precious jewels. The couches were made of ivory inlaid with gold. Musicians played sweet and melodious songs, and lotus flowers and fountains adorned the palace gardens and ponds. As she viewed the spacious and fabulously decorated rooms, each containing thousands of women adorned with untold valuable jewels, Ravana explained, Lanka is inhabited by 32 crores of Rakshasas, including the aged and infants, and 1,000 of these are my personal servants. If you are wise, O lovely Sita, you will fulfill my ardent desire and become my principal queen. Become my mistress and rule over all this opulence. I am tormented by love for you and shall be devoted to you alone. Please grant me your favor and look upon me with affection, for youthful beauty is fleeting. You should enjoy life with me and forget the insignificant Rama. Sita covered her moon like face and began shedding silent tears. Ravana then continued, Do not be afraid that our union goes against religious principles. I love you more than life itself. I fall at your feet and beg you to grant me your favor. Let this plea, which has arisen from love's anguish, not go in vain. Never before has Ravana bowed down before any woman. Ravana thought that by speaking of his love for her, Sita would soon be subdued. However, Sita fearlessly replied, My heart remains for Rama alone. Why should I, a swan sporting with her mate within a lotus filled lake, prefer a duck meandering on the shore? You can do whatever you like to me. Because of your vile, sinful lust, you will soon meet your death at the hands of Rama. After being harshly rebuked by Sita, Ravana became enraged, saying, I will give you just 12 months to surrender to me. At the end of that time, if you still resist me, I will have my cooks cut you to pieces and serve you as my breakfast. Ravana then turned to the Rakshasi attendants and ordered, Transfer Sita to the Ashok Grove, keep a careful watch over her, and try to win her over to my side by whatever means is required. Threaten her, flatter her, do whatever it takes, but tame her as one would an elephant. Arriving at the beautiful Ashoka Grove, replete with trees full of fruits and flowers, Sita became overwhelmed with anguish. Due to being constantly intimidated by the deformed Rakshasis, she soon fainted out of fright. At that time, Lord Brahma summoned Indra and said, Sita has been kidnapped by Ravana and taken to Lanka. This is our good fortune, for it surely means the imminent destruction of the Rakshasa king. Still, there is the danger that Sita may die due to separation from Rama. Therefore, I want you to go and give her this heavenly sweet rice to eat. Thereafter, Indra went to Ashok Grove at Lanka along with Nidra Devi, the goddess of sleep. After Nidra had put all the Rakshasas to sleep, Indra, in the dress of a Brahmana, approached Sita and said, I am the heavenly king, come to render assistance to Lord Rama. Please take this celestial sweet rice, for it will make you immune to hunger, thirst, and bodily miseries and many years to come. For many years to come. Sita doubted that the Brahmana was Indra and requested him to reveal his celestial form. Upon her request, Indra assumed his true form. When Sita observed that his feet did not touch the ground, his garland was not faded, and his clothes were completely free from dust, she became convinced of his identity and accepted the sweet rice. Sita first offered the food by praying for Rama to accept it. As soon as he ate it, she became freed from all bodily pangs. Their mission accomplished, Indra and Nidra Devi vanished from the scene. Whenever the Lord's devotee is in great difficulty, the Lord sees to his protection. A devotee never worries for his own protection or well being. Knowing that Krishna or Rama is always attentive to his needs, he concentrates on his service to the Lord. In the wonderful reciprocation of love, the devotee always thinks of his Lord, and the Lord always thinks of his devotee. After killing Maricha, Rama hastened back to his cottage. Along the way, he thought, the Rakshasas certainly want to take revenge against me for slaughtering their entire enemy at Janasthana. Maricha, Maricha's tricks were probably part of a plan to lure me away and devour Sita. I pray that Lakshmana did not leave Sita alone after hearing Maricha cry out, perfectly imitating my voice. Rama's apprehension increased upon hearing the frightful cry of a jackal at his back. Then birds and other wild animals began to pass Rama on his right side, uttering frightful cries. Moreover, his left eye twitched, his left arm throbbed convulsively, and his heart thumped. While observing these inauspicious signs, Rama met Lakshmana coming from the cottage. Taking him by the left hand, Rama immediately began to reproach him, saying, how could you disobey my order, leaving Sita unprotected? From all the inauspicious omens that have appeared, I can understand that she has either been killed or kidnapped. O Lakshmana, how could you leave Sita all alone? As the two rushed back to the cottage, Rama suddenly tripped on the forest path. Overwhelmed by fear of losing Sita and angry with Lakshmana for leaving her unprotected, Rama began to lament like a deranged person. If Sita is dead, then I shall kill myself, for I cannot bear to think of living without her. O Lakshmana, how could you betray me like this and leave dear Sita unprotected? Lakshmana hoped to explain, saying, Sita became a mad woman after hearing your cries for help. She spoke harshly, accusing me of leaving you to die so I could enjoy with her. Then she accused me of being Bharata's accomplice, your enemy in disguise. Hoping to prove her accusations false, I came here to your aid. Rama angrily replied, there is no excuse for leaving Sita unprotected. You are fully aware that I am unconquerable and do not lack prowess for defending myself from Rakshasas or anyone else. You should not have become provoked by a woman's anger and disobeyed my order. O Lakshmana, you have made a great mistake. Such behavior is unworthy of you. Rama and Lakshmana finally reached their cottage only to find it deserted. Rama then began searching all around for Sita. Failing to find her, his face disappeared, withered and dark from grief, afflicted with transcendental madness from feelings of separation. Rama began questioning the trees. Have you seen my beloved Sita pass this way, dressed in yellow silk and decorated with flowers in her hair? Rama then began asking the forest animals and birds if they had seen Sita. Receiving no reply, he became more morose. Then, imagining that Sita had suddenly appeared before him, Rama cried out, oh, dearly beloved, why are you running away from me and hiding yourself? Why do you not speak to me? Rama then imagined that Sita had been devoured by the Rakshasas and envisioned her delicate bodily features. Rama and Lakshmana continued to calm the surrounding mountains and features and forests, refusing to give up hope of finding Sita. However, when Sita could not be found, Rama became discouraged and sat down in despair. Regardless, Lakshmana encouraged him to continue searching. Thus, they roamed across many mountains, forests, and plains. Finally, Rama could go no further and he gave way to intense grief. Standing motionless, seeming bereft of reason, he breathed hotly and his eyes filled with tears. Rama became indifferent to Lakshmana's assurances that they would find Sita. Tormented by love, Rama cried out helplessly, Sita, Sita, again and again. As if deranged, Rama cried, My darling, have you hidden yourself just to play a joke with me? I beg you to please come out, for my suffering is intolerable. There are many instances of devotees weeping in separation from the Lord. The milkmaids of Vrindavan spent their whole life wandering in search of Krishna. Lord Chaitanya, as the perfect devotee, also adopted the mood of separation as the highest expression of love of God. Still, one may ask why Rama, as the Supreme Lord, wept for his beloved like an ordinary man. Indeed, being the omniscient Lord, he certainly knew her whereabouts. Hmm. The Lord enacts his pastimes for several reasons. Foremost, he comes to teach us that he is never impersonal but always the supreme person. Thus, he gives pleasure to his devotees and teaches mental speculators and mystic yogis that the supreme absolute truth is a person, captured and controlled by love. Secondly, he comes to establish dharma, the way of righteousness. He also comes to annihilate the demons by weeping over his abducted wife. Lord Rama establishes dharma, right conduct. He shows us by a negative example the condition of a man too attached to woman. This incident also shows that a woman should always be protected, lest she be exploited by Rakshasas like Ravana. Vedic living has no scope for a woman's being independent. However powerful a woman may be, she cannot protect herself independently. Still, this is for the instruction of the materialists. On the spiritual side, Rama, being the supreme personality of Godhead, is not subject to material conditioning. The separation Rama experiences from Sita is understood as transcendental conjugal love in separation. This is an activity of the Supreme Lord's pleasure potency and belongs to the mellow of conjugal love in the spiritual world. Although repeatedly called for, Sita did not appear. Rama became convinced she had been devoured by the Rakshasas. Lakshmana was also sick at heart. Rama then said, O Lakshmana, please go to the banks of the Godavari, for perhaps Sita has gone there to collect flowers. Thereafter, when Lakshmana returned from the Godavari without Sita, Ram personally went to the river and began asking the trees and animals about her. However, due to their fear of Ravana, none of the creatures dared reply, although Rama noticed that the deer were looking at him with meaningful intention. Rama then questioned the deer and tried reading their minds through their eyes. The deer seemed to reply by turning their heads upward and to the south, as if indicating that Sita had been carried away through the sky in that direction. Lakshmana could understand the deer's message and suggested they walk toward the south in hope of finding some clue. After setting out, they soon came to a trail of scattered flowers, which Rama recognized as those he had given Sita. Addressing a nearby mountain, Rama asked, Where has Sita gone after passing this way? Receiving no answer, Rama became enraged, saying, O mighty hill, if you do not reply to me, I shall shatter you to pieces with my arrows. There was only silence as Rama glowered at the peak with hot eyes. Rama then prepared to release his arrows at the mountain when Lakshmana pointed out Sita's footprints beside those of a giant Rakshasa. Following the footprints, Rama and Lakshmana soon came upon Ravana's broken bow and quiver, portions of his shattered chariot, along with pieces of Sita's broken ornaments. Then, with drops of blood, when drops of blood were found, Rama concluded that Sita was indeed devoured by the Rakshasas, for it appeared that two man-eaters had fought over her at the spot. So, I would request Aditya Prabhu to please continue the reading, and after some time, we will have Prabhuji Krishna Keshav Prabhu to hold on, continue the session. So I'll give you the mic access.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanavad Pranam.
Am I audible, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu, you are audible.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you. Gazing upon the dead mules, smashed chariot, and scattered weapons, Rama vowed, "No Rakshasa shall escape my vengeance, for today I will destroy them all in retaliation for Sita's murder. Why have the useless demigods not done something to save my helpless wife? If the demigods do not deliver Sita to me at once as revenge for their negligence and the crime of the Rakshasas, I shall destroy the entire universe." Rama's eyes were red hot with anger, and his lips, tightly pressed together, trembled with rage. Then, taking his bow from Lakshmana, Rama placed a terrible arrow meant to destroy the entire universe upon the string. Terrified, Lakshmana joined his hands in supplication, pleading, "Rama, by nature you are gentle, self controlled, and the well wisher of all living being entities. Therefore, please control your wrath and do not act hastily. It appears to me that there was only one Rakshasa involved in this fight, for there is but one broken chariot. Let us continue to search for Sita. If we still do not find her, then you cannot act as you see fit. My dear brother, you must practice forbearance since suffering is inevitable. If you cannot tolerate life's miseries, how can the common man be expected to do so? You should only consider how your enemy can be killed. There is no need to destroy the entire universe. While speaking this way, Lakshmana lovingly massaged his brother's lotus feet and gradually pacified Rama. After withdrawing the arrow from his bow, Rama assented to Lakshmana's suggestion to search the entire area of Janasthana thoroughly. Thereafter, while combing the forest, Rama and Lakshmana came upon the fallen Jatayu lying in a pool of blood. Rama thought he was a Rakshasa disguised as a bird who had devoured Sita and was now resting. Thus, as Rama approached, he fitted an arrow to his bow, ready to release it. However, upon drawing near, Rama understood that it was Jatayu and that he had been fatally wounded while trying to rescue Sita from the clutches of Ravana. Understanding this situation, Rama threw his bow aside and embraced Jatayu. Seeing the plight of his servant, Rama became doubly aggrieved. Rama anxiously asked, "O Jatayu, please tell me everything you know about Sita and her abductor." The dying Jatayu related all that had happened and commented, "Ravana took Sita away at the time of day known as Vinda. If a person loses something at that time, he will surely reclaim it very soon. My dear Rama, do not be overly aggrieved because of Sita, for you shall certainly regain her after killing the Rakshasa king in battle. Then, as Jatayu described Ravana's exalted lineage, he gasped his last breath, uttering, Rama, Rama. Rama told Lakshmana, I am more saddened by the death of Jatayu, who gave his life for my sake, than by the kidnapping of Sita. Go and bring some wood so we may cremate his body. Let it be known that Jatayu will attain the highest destination as a reward for his service to me. Lakshmana prepared the funeral pyre, and Rama placed Jatayu's body upon it and lit the fire. The brothers made offerings for the benefit of Jatayu's departed soul and chanted Vedic mantras. Rama and Lakshmana then went to the banks of the river Godavari to offer oblations of water and then took bath, thus completing the funeral ceremonies. Rama and Lakshmana again fixed their minds upon the task of finding Sita and continued to wander the forest. Traveling towards the southwest, they reached an untrodden land overgrown with trees and bushes. After passing through that region with great difficulty, they left the Dandakaranya forest and entered the Krauncha forest. After passing through that, Rama and Lakshmana entered another dense jungle. There, they were suddenly confronted by a huge Rakshasi standing before a large cave. The ghastly Rakshasi, with her long, sharp teeth, large protruding belly, and hard skin, quickly stepped forward, catching Lakshmana by the hand, saying, My dear handsome hero, please come with me and revel in this delightful forest. Then the Rakshasi embraced Lakshmana, saying, I am yours. Take me as your beloved wife. In reply, Lakshmana angrily drew his sword and cut off the Rakshasi's ears, nose, and breasts. Bleeding and screaming with pain, the Rakshasi fled. Then Rama and Lakshmana continued on as before. Suddenly, Rama said, My left arm is throbbing and my mind feels perturbed. O Lakshmana, we should prepare for imminent danger. A moment later, they heard the frightful cry of a Vanjulaka, Vanjulaka bird, and Lakshmana remarked, This indicates that victory will be ours. After Rama and Lakshmana proceeded some distance into the forest, a loud noise was heard as a storm suddenly began brewing. Searching out the source of the noise, Rama and Lakshmana proceeded cautiously, swords in hand. Before long, they came upon a huge Rakshasa with no head, neck, or legs, and a gigantic mouth located in the middle of his belly. The Rakshasa was as big as a mountain, with sharp, bristling hair all over his body. On his chest were two fiery eyes, and his long arms stretched out for 8 miles, enabling him to easily catch large animals to eat. Although Rama and Lakshmana retreated to a distance of 2 miles after seeing the monster, the Rakshasa suddenly captured them in his grasp, squeezing so tightly that they were made helpless. Although Rama did not feel threatened, Lakshmana felt despondent, saying, O Rama, you should offer me as a sacrifice to this Rakshasa in exchange for your own life. After that, you can continue your search for Sita. While Rama encouraged Lakshmana not to be afraid, the Rakshasa said, "My name is Kabanda. It is very fortunate that you have come to my forest because I have been hungry for a long time. Since you are the food which Providence has provided for me, I think that you will have a very difficult time keeping your precious lives." Lakshmana then told Rama, "We should quickly save ourselves by cutting off this Rakshasa's arms with our swords." Hearing this, Kadamba became furious and immediately opened his fearful mouth wide, hoping to devour Rama and Lakshmana at once. However, before Kadamba could do so, Rama severed his right arm and Lakshmana cut off his left. Thus, the Rakshasa fell to the ground, bathed in his own blood. In an anguished voice, Kadamba asked, "Who are you?" Hearing this, sorry, Lakshmana replied, "This is Rama, a Kshatriya in the line of Ikshvaku. I am his brother Lakshmana. We have come here searching for Rama's wife, Sita, who has been kidnapped by the king of the Rakshasas, Ravana." Kadamba was overjoyed to hear the name of Rama. The Rakshasa then said, "I am so fortunate you have come here to redeem me. Please listen as I explain how I acquired this ghastly form. In my last life, I was the son of Danu. By performing great austerities, I satisfied Lord Brahma and was granted the benediction of a long duration of life. After receiving this boon, however, I became very proud, thinking my archenemy Indra could no longer harm me. Thereafter, when I attacked the king of heaven on the battlefield, he hurled his thunderbolt at me. When the thunderbolt struck me, my head and legs were forced into my body. Finding myself in such a wretched condition, I begged Indra to kill me. However, he refused, saying that to do so would falsify the words of Lord Brahma. At last, when I asked Indra how I would survive without a head, he placed my mouth in the middle of my belly and made my arms 8 miles long. Indra then declared, "When Rama and Lakshmana come before you, you will regain your heavenly form." Kadamba continued, "Ever since that time, I have been catching creatures with my long arms and stuffing them into my mouth, hoping that one day I would catch Rama mentioned by Indra. Then, once I harassed a certain Rishi who cursed me to retain this horrible form for a certain eternity. I tearfully begged the Rishi to prescribe some end to my plight. He confirmed that I would regain my original form after being cremated by Rama. Now I have been delivered by you, and after my death, I will direct you to a powerful ally who will help you to attain your desired goal." Rama then explained, "My wife Sita has been kidnapped by Ravana, the king of Rakshasas. However, I only know his name. I know nothing else about him concerning his appearance or place of residence. I will throw you into a big pit and cremate your body so that you can attain your desired destination. In return, give me some information about this Ravana." Kadamba then said, "I am very sorry, but I do not know anything about Ravana after being cremated. However, I will inform you of a person who has traveled throughout the three worlds. He will be able to assist you in locating the king of the Rakshasas." Thereafter, Rama and Lakshmana took Kadamba into a mountain cave. and placed his body upon the funeral pyre that Lakshmana had prepared. Because it was so fat, when the body began to burn, it looked just like a huge lump of burning ghee. Then, from out of the fire arose Kadamba in his original celestial form, dressed in fine garments and decorated with ornaments and garlands. After taking his seat upon a celestial chariot pulled by swans, Kadamba said, O Rama, political misfortune can be overcome in 6 ways: by making peace, by fighting, by assassination, by building up superior arms and fortifications, by sowing dissension, and by seeking the help of others. Just as you are now placed in the height of adversity from the loss of your wife, so will the height so will you be able to retrieve her with the help of someone in a similar condition. That person is the monkey king Sugriva, who has been exiled by his brother Vali, the son of Indra. O Rama, you should make friends with Sugriva, who was begot by Surya in the wife of Raksharaja, for he is also in need of a benefactor. He is now living along with 4 other monkeys on Rishamuka mountain, which is near Lake Pampa. First, go to Lake Pampa. It is a beautiful sight that abounds with exotic birds. These birds live without fear of human beings, for they have never been injured by them. You should feed these birds and the fish in Lake Pampa and then meet the ascetic woman Sabari who resides there. The entire
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
area, yeah, Prabhu.
So thank you very much, Prabhu, for reading this.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, Prabhu,
May I
would
know
you?
the page number? Just
Bro, 227.
oh, I'm just there actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. If devotees have some questions, then we may take 1 or 2 questions. One question maybe 2 3 minutes.
So devotees, all those who are having any questions, they can post their questions in the questions tab,
Or they can
and
ask also. You can give them mic access if they want to
yeah,
speak.
you can ask if you want to speak
You
in any.
can
Hmm.
you can tell them to ask access for what is that request for mic. Then we can give access.
Yeah,
Anyhow, I am speaking means they're hearing. Huh?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you
So
can have, yes.
so devotees can request for mic access. Then we will give. Then you can ask the question. They have. You can see there. Give access like that. It will come to your in your system. If they are shy to ask, then maybe they can put in the question tab. Okay. There are no questions. I think. Okay. Shall I continue?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
I have to start by near Lake Pampa.
No, from first paragraph only.
Oh, first
Line.
paragraph. Okay. The entire area is beautified by ever fresh flowers, produced from the perspiration from the bodies of Matanga Rishi's disciples as they brought fruits, roots, and flowers from the forest. The great sage Matanga gave up his body at Lake Pampa long ago. Devotees, I want to just share one thing. This Pampa river is in Kerala. It's down south. There is a place called Shabarimala, and this particular Pampa is mentioned even in Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita also. Nityananda Prabhu went, Vruddhara went, Balaram ji went, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went. So this is very famous river. This has a long history. But as such, the story is twisted. Some Ayappa, somebody has come. Of course, he's one of the devatas, Upa devatas. But the point is that there, that hill is called Shabari Mala. Means Shabari means Shabari's hill, and the lake is called Pampa Lake. That is, lake is also still exists. The great sage Matanga gave up his body at Lake Pampa long ago. Thereafter, the ascetic woman Shabari attended to his disciples. Although these rishis have also long since ascended to higher worlds, Shabari still remains there, awaiting your audience before departing for Brahmaloka. Near Lake Pampa is the Rishamukha hill, where Sugriva lives in a long cave, always fearful of being attacked by Vali. Sugriva is loyal, intelligent, generous, wise, brave, and powerful. You would do well to have an alliance with him, for he knows all about the Rakshasas. His followers can wander over the earth until they find Sita. Saying this, Kabanda took permission from Lord Rama and ascended to heaven. Then, following Kabanda's directions, Rama and Lakshmana set out. On the second day, they arrived at Lake Pampa, where they saw the ashram of Matanga Rishi. When Rama and Lakshmana entered the hermitage, Shabari got up and greeted them with folded hands. Then, after touching the lotus feet of Rama and Lakshmana, Shabari honored them with varieties of fruit, food, and drink, and water to wash their feet. When Rama inquired about her spiritual practices, Shabari, who was a perfected soul, replied, "Just by seeing you, I have achieved the fusion, fruition of all my austerities. When you came to Chitrakuta, the rishis I was serving all went to heaven in celestial chariots. Before departing, however, they assured me that you would come here, and that after receiving you, I would also attain a heavenly destination." At Rama's request, Shabari took him and Lakshmana. At Rama's request, Shabari took him and Lakshmana on a guided tour of the beautiful area surrounded Lake Pampa. Afterwards, Shabari requested Rama's permission to cast half of her mortal body so that she could rejoin the sages she had so faithfully served. Being very pleased with Shabari, Rama granted her desire. Thus, after building a fire, the old ascetic lady, dressed in black deer skin and tree bark and wearing a matted hair, leaped into the blazing flames. The next moment, Shabari rose up to heaven like a flash of lightning, adorned with celestial jewels and garlands. Having thus witnessed Shabari's spiritual prowess, Rama and Lakshmana went to bathe in Lake Pampa, created from the waters of seven seas. Thereafter, feeling enlivened and ever joyful of finding Sita, Rama anxiously departed with Lakshmana, eager to find Sugriva. So before entering into Kishkindya Kanda, I would ask devotees if they have any question. Then you may post here. Questions show the intelligence. So if somebody wants to ask some question, you may drop in the question box, or Asita Prabhu can give you access for the mic. Otherwise, I can continue for another 6 minutes.
Yeah, there is one question. Mataji
Yes.
wants to ask. Let us wait. Uh,
Krishna. Hare Krishna. Am I audible?
yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Mataji, you can ask.
So, question from the previous reading session.
Yes.
Lakshmana, it was shown that for Ravana's sister, he used his sword to cut the nose and ears. So I just wanted to know, she was a woman and unarmed, and she was not trying to attack them, like not physically trying to harm them. So. Uh, why did he go to like such an extreme thing to just like using his sword, somebody who's unarmed? Like there were a lot of rules, right, and fighting anybody at that time. Now you can just hit anybody at the back and it's okay. But that time you had to like weapon versus weapon. So they had to have
Hmm.
a weapon. She was not armed and she was a woman and she was not attacking them, so to speak, specifically. So vice
I think she was attacking Sita.
Yeah, yes, bro.
The first point is that she was attacking Sita. See, the point of Shurpanakha is raised since time immemorial, that why she's being attacked by Lakshmana. The main point is that she had attraction for Rama, but that attraction was not the attraction in such a way that she wants to serve him. She had material lust in first thing, and even if it is that material lust, okay, that can be granted in Krishna service, okay, fine, but still she was hating Sita to the extent that she was thinking that she was beautiful and Sita was not beautiful. She was comparing herself like a swan and she is like a crow. And she wants to attack Sita, and seeing that Rama ordered immediately Lakshmana, sorry, Rama ordered Lakshmana to attack because for a actually, if you see in the first instance when Rama killed Tataka, the same question what is that? Vishwamitra predicted that don't think that she is a lady, but because she's trying to attack you, or she's a demoness. So demons means, I mean to say, those who are rakshasas, they can be attacked because they are envious. Envious means snakes are attacked. Even if the snake is going, even if she doesn't harm you, snake means they have to kill. That is the that is the thing, that is the way they can be purified. So here, even though she is unarmed, you might say from the moral lines or from the yuddha or rules of war, even though she is unarmed, but she is a demoness and she wanted to attack Sita. So obviously Rama had to tell to Rama could have attacked, but Rama told the service to Lakshmana, and Lakshmana took the service of cutting nose and ears of Shurpanakha.
And it only was that only the nose was cut, not she was not killed. It was
Ha,
only a minor thing, like
it
only
was,
nose. Yeah,
yeah, it was only minor thing, but still, what is that? She was thinking that because Lakshmana cut her nose, she became, she lost her beauty. She was not at all beautiful previously
so
also.
yeah,
Uh,
that way she
she
was not beautiful.
she was thinking, what, that's what demons think, that I am beautiful. Even though they are not beautiful, they will think that I am attractive, I am beautiful. Sita is not beautiful, Rama is not beautiful. What kind of person is Rama, what kind of person is Sita? Why she has to obey to the orders of Rama? She could have stayed there. So many people raise all sorts of nonsense questions, but the point is that the duty of man is there, duty of woman is there, and she's married. So there are so many things are there. Vedic culture means it comes as a package. I'm beautiful, so why Lakshmana cut my throat? She thought like that, but she's not beautiful, she's a demoness, and she wanted to attack Sita. So there is nothing wrong when somebody attacks a woman. It is the first duty of a man to attack him or her, whatever it is, and it is, she's a demon.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Ravi, another thing, I have heard of the story of Shabri feeding bears to Lord Rama and Lakshmana.
Yeah, I wanted to answer that first itself. Yeah, you can ask.
So I was just wondering, that incident is not mentioned over here. Will it
Uh,
come in the future or how is it now?
if you just take your book, if you have the book, then just see the introduction. There is a page called introduction page in this book, and then there is a note over there where Maharaj writes, this edition of Ramayana is based on original text by Valmiki and the well-known descriptions of Lakshmana Rekha, of the ascetic Lakshmana Rekha, of the ascetic woman Shabari tasting fruit before offering it to Rama, and of Lord Rama worshipping Lord Shiva are not included because they do not appear in the Valmiki Ramayana. I think this one particularly Shabari feeding the what is that, the Uchishta
Tasting the blood.
or Uchishta tasted, already tasted bear fruit of to Rama. It appears in Ramcharitmanas. It doesn't appear in this one, uh,
Also,
in in
these
Valmiki.
Lakshman Rekha and this
And
Savai, they appear in the Narsing Purana also, bro. Narsing Purana, it is there.
Rama worshipping Shiva, you mean to say?
No, these two, Shabari tasting fruit and Lakshman Rekha. These are in Narsinga Purana, not
I,
in Valmiki Ramayana.
you can send me the reference, but I never heard like that.
Okay, okay.
uh, and Lord Rama worshipping Lord Shiva, that is there in the Sthala Purana of Rameshwaram, but it is not there in, I don't know, any Puranas or anything, but it is there in the Sthala Purana.
Okay.
Mm. Aditya ji, your mic is
Yeah, Prabhu. I was waiting.
yeah, you can
Unmute, Prabhuji. Shall I mute?
you can mute, and then I will give you
Yes,
access.
Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Because it is disturbance from backside. So the point is that see, Lord Shiva worshipping, so Lord Shiva being worshipped by Lord Rama, that's there in Sthala Purana, and the Shivalingas are, one is established by Lord Rama, one is by Sita, one is by Hanuman. Hanuman brings all the way, and time lapses. They want to do some puja, but Hanuman comes late. In the meanwhile, Sita makes a sand from living linga from the sand. So, and then all the three establish their lingas. So that is there in Sthala Purana of Rameshwaram. I don't know if it is there in other Puranas. You know, Asita Prabhu, it is there in other Puranas.
No, Prabhu, I'm not sure.
But these two are there in Narsinga Puran, you are saying. But
Yeah, I heard in the lecture.
maybe
Uh,
Keshavan Prabhu would have told.
yeah, Kishan Prabhu only.
Uh, okay, I never heard it is there. Okay, it might be there. But in Ramcharitmanas, it is clear it is there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In Lakshman Rekha is there, and even this one is there. I was also surprised when Maharaj said Lakshman Rekha is not here in Ramayana. Of course, Shabari feeding was there as a dramatic this one, but Lakshman Rekha is also not there. Mm. Okay, Aditya, you can give. Okay, Mataji, thank you very much for asking the question. Aditya, you can give access to Aditya to ask the question.
Yes, I have given access. Aditya Prabhu, you can unmute yourself and ask the question or comment.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you for giving the chance. Prabhuji, here when we were reading this, I came across one point, Prabhuji. Like here it is mentioned, Rama as the Supreme Lord wept for his beloved like any other ordinary man.
Hmm.
Being an omniscient Lord, he certainly knew her whereabouts.
Hmm.
So Lord was enacting these pastimes to teach us that he is impersonal. So he exchanges love with his devotees.
What is that?
So
What is that? Lord?
he wants to teach and give pleasure to his devotees, and he want to teach the mental speculators that he is a person captured by love.
Okay.
So is
Whi-
there
whi-
any other?
which page number
Here
exactly?
it is the blue book, Prabhuji. It is 215.
Blue
In
book
that I don't.
215.
Prabhu, it is here actually.
I just want to read what
I
Maharaj
think
has particularly written. That is what.
maybe it
Mm.
is be 216 like that, Prabhuji.
What is it?
Here, Prabhu. It's 218.
Yes,
218. 218. The Lord enacts his pastimes for
yes,
several
Prabhuji.
reasons.
Yes,
Foremost,
Prabhuji.
he comes to teach us that he is never impersonal, but always supreme person. Thus, he gives pleasure to his devotees and teaches mental speculators and mystic yogis that the supreme absolute truth is a person captured and controlled by love. Okay. Secondly, he comes to establish dharma, the way of righteousness. He also comes to annihilate the demons. By weeping over his abducted wife, Lord Rama establishes dharma, right conduct. he shows us by negative example the condition of a man too much attached to women. Yes, your question. What's your question?
So here, my question is like, how we can understand this, Prabhuji? Like, how Lord acting like a normal human being.
Just today only I heard from Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu that Lord Rama, Lord Rama's whole pastime is to demonstrate how this material world is dukhalayam ashashvatam by having a women's association. Sorry to say like this, but
No problem, Prabhuji.
this is truth.
So that is fact. Yes, Prabhuji.
So Rama very clearly and in his life, just by being being in association with women, you are into lot of problems. So that Rama himself, he has in one sense, Rama is not feeling any problems because he is never separate from Sita. He is never this one. But Prabhupada, even Prabhupada said that Lord Rama could create millions and millions of Sitas. I was
Yes,
surprised
Prabhuji.
when I heard that one. So Prabhupada said like that he could create millions of Sitas, but he is Maryada Purushottam. That means he's enacting the pastime of being attached to with one woman. For the sake of one woman, so people accuse Rama, but as such, we should see how glorious is Rama, that for that one woman, he is not only searched, he killed the entire demonic dynasty of Ravana. For
Yes,
that
Prabhuji.
one woman, there is enraged war, big war, millions and millions of Vanaras and Rakshasas have died for that one woman. So this is one way of understanding, as Maharaj is telling, by negative example. The other way of example is that this is the condition of a man who is too much attached to women. When one becomes too much attached to women, we can understand that. But it is not telling that devotee woman. It is even if it is a devotee woman, but if we take it to a woman, that I think background so much noise is there. If one becomes too much attached to women, not because of the reason of devotional service, just because she's a woman, then one has to come into so many problems. So one has to associate with women, or man has to associate with women, and woman has to associate with man as much as necessary for the for the sake of service to Krishna. So then that relationship can stay. As such, that relationship will create problems, but as much as it is necessary, one has to associate. That's all, for the sake of service. Then both, otherwise for a man woman is Maya, and for woman man is Maya. So that is what. So here, as is the context is that Rama is acting as a person who is married, who is attached to women, and if woman, he has to give protection to the men. And that one more lesson we can understand, that he gives full protection to the woman. One has to give full protection. If woman is not protected, what kind of dangers can happen? This is what Ramayana teaches. And foolishly nowadays, women, material women, I mean to say, not devotees, material women wants to be independent, free. They want to do whatever they want to do. Then some Ravana will come and take, and there is no Rama to protect nowadays. There is no equivalent person who can protect them. If they are in Krishna consciousness, then they are protected. Otherwise, they cannot be protected. Uh, is your question answered, or some it went into some tangent?
No, nothing, Prabhuji. It was very elaborate. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Such a deep understanding. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Okay. Some question, some chat. Thank you very much. Okay, Prabhuji. Okay, we will stop here, Prabhu. Asita, Prabhu.
Yeah, Prabhu, it's already 9:40.
Yeah.
So stop here and
Thank you for devotees for participating and asking questions. So we'll meet tomorrow, Rama willing. Tomorrow is Sri Ramanavami. So all glories to Sita, Rama, Lakshmana, Hanuman. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण। ओके प्रभु, exit.